welcome, welcome. And then Brandy, if you could just go to slide 2 for me. How is everyone doing? So in the chat, I already have a task for you. Let us know a little bit about yourself. Where are you coming from? Are you new to CodeHS? Are you new to AP? Give us some information. Welcome, welcome. Let's see. Well, let me fix my chat real fast here. And that's one thing I didn't do. One moment, please. There we go. Let's see. Panelists, everyone. One more. Attendees, everyone. There you go. Try the chat for me. Hopefully it's going to be working for everyone now. Let's see. I don't see my mute or camera options. No, you won't see any camera options or muting or anything like that. This is set up as a webinar. And so with the webinar, we just have the chat open for you. Webinars tend to have lots and lots of people. We could have over 100 people in a webinar. So we don't do any like participant talking. So we do have the chat open for you. We also have the Q&A area open for you. So the Q&A is at the bottom as well. So you can use the chat area to chat with other CS teachers, ask questions, give resources, things like that. We love to see you guys engaged in the chat. But we also have the Q&A open. So if you have a question for us and you don't want it to get lost in the chat, if the chat seems to be a little bit overwhelming, you can definitely put your questions for us into the Q&A area. Some of those questions we'll just type the answer right back to you. And some of those questions we will answer live. So either I'll answer the question. We also have Leon Grant, who's a PD specialist on here with us. She may answer the question. And of course, you probably will have questions for Brandy, who is going to be the lead in this webinar today. So let me just look through the chat real quick, see where everybody's coming from. So we have APCSA, CSP from Texas. My dogs are barking. Yeah, everybody's muted. We can't hear a thing. And even yesterday, I guess Brandy's dogs were barking. I couldn't hear a thing. Zoom is really good about blocking out any of those noises. Oh, a new job in the fall. A required freshman computer science class. Oh, an APCSP for the first time. Well, welcome, welcome. We plan on giving you lots of information today about APCSP to help you out. And I'm glad you have chosen to take a look at CodeHS. We do have some amazing curriculum that is great for students, but also for teachers. We have a lot of resources to share with you. Digital design. I used to teach digital design. Fun class. All right. Oh, Austria, man. Very cool. Lots of first year teaching APCSP. So I'm glad that you guys are here with us today so we can give you some information as you're thinking about starting to teach in the fall. We won't talk about that though. Summer's still going strong right now for many of us. So we're hanging on to right every last day of the summer. All right. I am going to put into the chat, just in case you would like to have access to the slides and follow along with the slides. I can put that in there for you. So there's the slides. Again, you don't have to follow along with the slides. You can just kind of watch Brandy as she goes. But if you want to take a look at the slides later, there's the link for you. And then Brandy, if you could go to the next one for me. So I'll just tell you a quick little bit about myself. and then I will have Brandy take over. So my name's Robin Leslie. I'm a professional development specialist with CodeHS. I am coming to you from Northwest Indiana. So I am about 30 miles outside of Chicago. I use CodeHS in my classroom with my students for a couple of different courses. And I also attended lots of CodeHS professional development like you're attending today. So I could actually learn computer science since I was a business teacher who was asked, voluntold, you would say, to teach computer science. And so I'm glad to be working for the company. And then today we have Brandy Johnson, who is one of our amazing teacher trainers that we have. And she is going to be giving you lots of information about how she uses CodeHS and AP CSP in her classroom. Brandy?
Everyone. Thank you, Robin. So my name is Brandy Johnson. I teach in Northeastern Nevada. This will be I've been teaching since 2008, both in California and Nevada. Like Robin, I was also voluntold to start teaching computer science. I'm actually an English and social studies teacher used to be for the most part. I teach almost all computer science, and then occasionally they throw me a couple history classes or an English class just to, keep it spicy. So super excited to talk to you guys about all the amazing ways you can incorporate CodeHS as your AP CSP curriculum for this coming school year. All right. So today we're going to go through the course overview. I'm going to do a mock lesson for you. Then we're going to explore kind of how everything is broken down. And then we'll do a quick Q&A and then wrap things up. All right. I think this one's yours, Robin.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So again, if you want to use the Q&A, you can. To ask us any questions, you can also use the chat if the chat is not just kind of hopping too much to where maybe we would lose your question in there. So any questions you have, feel free to send them in the Q&A. And what we're going to do is Brandy will stop every now and then and ask to see if there are any questions, and then she will answer them at that point. So even as she's going and she's talking, feel free to send those questions in. And when she pauses, we will make sure to get those answered. And then if you do not have a CodeHS account, if you happen to be brand new and you need a CodeHS account, a CodeHS account is free. And I'm going to put that link in the chat for you. There you go. So it does take just a little bit for us to confirm that you're a teacher. So we can also give you all of the solutions to all of the exercises and things that we have in our courses. But feel free to sign up for a free CodeHS teacher account. And once you're verified, you would be able to have access to everything. And then this next link that I'm going to put into the chat is to make sure that you get credit for showing up today and for attending this professional development during your summer. It's a certificate of completion link. And so when you click on this link, you want to make sure that you are logged into CodeHS because you need to be logged into your account in order for this link to work. So if you don't have a CodeHS account yet, go ahead and sign up for it and then click this link. You don't have to be verified yet to get that link to work. You just need to use your CodeHS account. And we recommend using your school email address to sign up for your CodeHS account. When you click that link, nothing fancy happens. It just pops up and says, thank you for attending. But then you will also get an email with your certificate. So, and then if you missed that, or if you're still signing up for your account, we will go ahead and pop that link back into the chat near the end of the webinar for anybody who missed it right at the start. You can go ahead. And then I've put in the link a couple of times to the slides if you would like to use the slides. And then there's also a QR code if you're fancy schmancy and you want to take a picture of that with your phone and flip through the slides on your phone. You can do that. And then you can go to the next one. All right, so we are going to be doing a little bit of work in a section that we've created for this webinar on CodeHS. So if you would like to, I put the link in there for you to join that section. When you join that section, you are joining as a student. So you would go through that section as a student would go through the section. So you can see what it looks like for students. Again, if you are out and about and you are not able to join that section, that is totally fine. You can feel free to just watch Brandy as she goes. And I think that's it. Hopefully I have everything. Again, if you have any questions as Brandy's going along, feel free to send those our way. And when she pauses, we'll get those answered. Thanks.
Thank you, Robin. All right. So CodeHS is an amazing comprehensive platform for teaching computer science, and not just for high school. If you know elementary or middle school teachers, there's all kinds of great resources for them as well. So that way, in the future, when kids get to you, they already have a background in computer science. I know in the state of Nevada, we have mandatory computer science curriculum starting in kindergarten. So I can't wait for the day that those kids come up to me and already have some background knowledge. It's going to be so cool. It is a K-12 web-based computer science curriculum, which I love because my kids are all on Chromebooks. They don't have to download anything. They can just use the web-based platform and it's already there ready to go for them. CodeHS offers both online and offline professional development. So even if your schedule doesn't allow you to attend some of the great, amazing webinars that they provide throughout the year, you can always watch them. They're recorded. They also have some really great courses that are self-paced that you can do on your own. So definitely take a look at those. They're super great. And so I'm going to go through with you today all of the amazing things or most of the amazing things. I can't go through all of it. That would be a multiple hour long webinar to try and get through everything, but all of the things that you need to at least get started whenever your school year begins. And so specifically, like a lot of the teacher tools and resources, the hidden gems that make CodeHS so amazing. So like I said, CodeHS is a comprehensive software platform. You don't need to go anywhere else. It has everything you could need. It does have an instant feedback and submission system, so your students can get everything they need from you. You can put in comments and send it back to them for further work if you need to. It also has a really great grading and tracking tools for teachers that are available in the platform as well, which I'm going to show you. All web-based, no downloads, no plugins, nothing else you need. They even have a way around, which I'll show you when we get to the lectures. If your students don't have access to YouTube, because if your district's like mine, it's mostly blocked. So students don't even need YouTube or anything, which is great. All right, so I'm going to quickly go over the course overview, give you some tips and tricks. First thing I start off with for my students. So I live in a very economically diverse region. Not a lot of my kids can actually afford to pay for the exam. So depending on how your district does it or your school does it, students a lot of times are responsible for paying for those AP tests on their own. So we do fundraising. We also reach out to community sponsors to help cover the cost of that. The biggest fundraiser my kids do every year is I have 5 or 6 3D printers in my classroom. And so we actually create little 3D printed figurines that we sell to elementary school students in order to make money. Another thing I start my year off with is my kids and their parents and my administrator all have to sign a contract explaining what it is it requires to be in an AP class. Most of the students that take my course, they tend to be freshmen or sophomores. And so this is the first ever AP class they're going to take. And so I just want them to know what it is they're getting into and what are the requirements. So I have 4 big main requirements that my students have to adhere to for me to cover the cost of their exam. And if they violate any of these, they owe me that exam feedback and generally are removed from my class as well. And so the first one is they have to complete the create task by the due date, because that's a huge thing for my students. Yeah, I can share a link to the contract and stuff. It is not on CodeHS. I created this for my classes in particular, but I can definitely drop that into the chat when we get to our first break. I will get that for you guys. Because if they don't complete the create task, their odds of passing the exam go down astronomically. I also require them to maintain at least a 75% in my class, just because, studies have shown that that's what it's, the minimum it's going to take probably to pass that test. They do have to take the AP test, obviously, because I pay for it. So if they don't show up for the exam, I tend to get kind of grumpy, and adhere to all the testing instructions. And then if for some reason they're caught cheating on any portion that results in a failing score in the class or on the test, they have 30 days after they're notified to get that $95 fee back. And so that just goes back into my course account that I have for my classes. So, and this way parents know, students know. I think I've only ever once had a student who violated the contract, and that was not maintaining the 75%. And so they were just removed at the semester. And luckily I was able to get the exam fee back. So the kid wasn't responsible for paying them. But it's saved me a lot of times with parents just having, and with my administrator, just having very clear expectations of, what it's going to take to get through this AP course. All right. So a little bit about the course itself in CodeHS. So it is a high school course. It does take 145 contact hours. It is a full year long. So hopefully everybody's on a full year course. I don't think I could ever imagine trying to teach this even in a semester. So your students do have the option of doing, so they have, well, 4 now because the new one's coming out. So they have JavaScript for AP principles, and then Python. If you're teaching in Python, I'm switching to Python this year. I'm so excited. And then they have cybersecurity as well. All of them are aligned with the College Board standards. And then I know CodeHS just came out with APCS principles with Roblox, which I'm sure Robin is going to talk about at the end, because there's some cool opportunities if you want to get involved in that new course as well. All of them super similar. They just, obviously the difference between Java and Python is the language. Cybersecurity just adds some additional resources that focus on the cybersecurity aspect. So all the big 5 units that College Board requires, all of them are in CodeHS. And so you decide whether you are wanting to do Python, whether you want to do JavaScript with your students. Thank you, Leanne, for putting the contract in. And so it's up to you. I'm just switching to Python this year because I have some industry professionals in my region who all of their programming is based in Python. So I want my kids to be prepared for going into the job market as well. So all right, so the curriculum framework is all laid out in the big 5 ideas, and these all come from College Board. It is laid out in modules. They don't necessarily correspond, so you won't see like Unit 1 in CodeHS is going to be the big one, is like big idea 1 from College Board, but it's all in there. However, CodeHS has a big update coming out on August 2nd, so do not create your sections quite yet. Wait until that August 2nd, just because there's a lot of new updates coming out with the create task that they're incorporating and stuff to make sure that you don't have to go back later and try and add some of the new things into your course. So don't create anything yet. You can still play around with it, take a look at it. But before you decide to create any of your specific course sections, you should probably wait another, 2 weeks almost. All right. So in the AP CSP course, students will have a chance to learn to code with the Carol module, which is super fun. It's kind of like getting to train their own little cute interactive dog. They also have the internet simulator, so students can look and see how the internet works, which is another big idea of CSP. And then lastly, the binary bit editor, which explores digital representation. So kids can learn how to, deal with binary and all that fun stuff. My kids love binary. It's their favorite, surprisingly. So you have the option of doing the 2 different languages. You can either do Python, you can do Java. All the examples and exercises that you're going to see in the Java course are in the Python course. The only main exception to this is data structures, where they borrow some of the content from the Python 3 course to talk about different things versus the JavaScript arrays. So that's really the only big main difference between the Java and the Python. Otherwise, they're nearly identical. They also have the AP CSP cybersecurity one. And so in partnership with the National Cybersecurity Training and Educational Center, CodeHS developed this great cybersecurity version of the AP CSP course. So like the other 2 courses, this one's fully endorsed by College Board, so you don't have to worry about when you go to do your course audit that it's not going to get approved. It's all fully approved by College Board. So it actually, the cybersecurity one combines JavaScript with cybersecurity lessons developed by the National Cybersecurity Training and Education Center. The result is an AP CSP course that just has increased emphasis on cybersecurity, which this day and age, that's not a bad thing. So while this specific course is in JavaScript, the cybersecurity lessons are going to be available in the Python along with an integration guide to help integrate these with the Python course as well. So if you're teaching Python, don't feel like you're getting shorted on the cybersecurity stuff. That is going to be in there as well. So CodeHS structures their courses into modules. So the main content modules cover the content of the course, and then they have supplemental modules that contain additional practice, which I will show you when we get into CodeHS. The modules are broken down into lessons. They take anywhere from 1 to 2 class periods to complete, depending on how long your class periods are. My class periods are about 55 minutes because we're on a 4-day schedule. So usually I can get through, easily a lesson every day. Some of the bigger ones that have more examples that are a little bit more concrete, my students will take 2 days on, but we have a little bit longer class periods. Each module does contain a summative test at the end. And one of the things I love about these summative tests is they're all using some of the College Board release questions. So it's the same language that they're going to see on the exam. And so your kids will come out better prepared because it's already getting them in the mindset of how to answer those AP level questions. The lessons get broken down into activities. They typically start with a video. If you choose not to do the video, you can play the slides and turn it into a mini lecture that's teacher-led if you so choose. Followed by that, there's a quiz. I generally move my quiz to the end of the lesson, just so that my students have an opportunity to go through those example problems and to practice a little before they take the quiz, but that's entirely up to you. I just use it as kind of a quick end of class formative assessment. And then the lessons contain anywhere from 2 to 3 examples and then 2 to 3 auto-graded exercises from there. All right. Any questions so far? Thank you, Leanne, for sharing the contract. And then if you teach AP CSA, it looks exactly like my AP CSA contract. The only difference is I cut out the line about the create tasks since they don't have to do that. But it's identical to my CSA kids take as well. You have to sign.
Hi, Rebecca. I see you have a question. If you want to type it into the Q&A or if you want to type it into the chat, we would love to answer that for you.
Is there a pacing guide?
So that's in the syllabus, and I think we'll probably
go through
be
that.
pulling that up in a little bit. Yep, we definitely do have that for you.
So we're going to dive into CodeHS. So inside your assignments, everything's broken down for you in the materials section. Here we go. You have lots of different resources at your disposal for all the different items, including handouts, which are super great. Those are on the pro feature, I believe. So you do have here on the left-hand side, you have all these resources for your students and for you. You do have your curriculum handouts. That breaks it down. I love it because it's all hyperlinked for you to use. Let's see. Syllabus. There's these in the AP Hub. They just came out with this new toolbar, which is super great. So in the AP Hub, it's going to give you AP CSA, but then all you have to do is click on the CSP, all the different resources, course exam and description. They have sample performance tasks for you, some anti-cheating resources. Gotta love that. All kinds of stuff. If you click on the course catalog, you can see all the different ones that CodeHS offers. And then you can get to the syllabus. So the cybersecurity one, this is the syllabus. And it does break it down for how long it's going to take you. I love that they break this down into hours for me because I have to convert that into a 4-day schedule. I'm not complaining, I swear, about a 4-day schedule. It's just my pacing guide looks a little different than this because of that. All right, so I'm going to run through a sample lesson with you guys. This is probably my evilest lesson in CodeHS. Just because my kids cannot figure out why this dog is not smart enough to turn right and why it can only turn left. And then I look like a diabolical monster when I show them that, in fact, Carol can turn right. We're just trying to get you to problem solve, when something is not so easily at your disposal. So they do get a little grumpy at this, but I don't know. I find it quite entertaining. So this particular lesson has the video option that your students can watch, or you can look at the slides and just present it like a mini lecture. It's totally up to you. And then it has the quiz, then it has the example, and then it has their 2 different exercises for the kids to do, and then a nice little reflection. And then this is kind of like their completion sticker, although we call it a badge because good luck telling a high school student you're going to give them a sticker for completing something. Look at you like you're crazy. All right, so let's run through what this actually looks like. One of the things they do, especially if you got that first week of school and you're trying to get to know your students, I highly recommend giving them that pre-test. One of the things we have to do in Nevada is we have to have a kind of performance goal that the students do. So this is the test I give them at the beginning of the year, and then they take it again at the end of towards the end of the year, closer to the AP test, to kind of show how much they've grown and learned. And so this is my big exam for them that they have to take, because I can't use the AP scores because of how long it takes to get those results back. All right, so starts off with a video for your students. You have the option of they can view it straight in CodeHS, or they can go to YouTube to watch it. My district blocks almost 95% of the things on YouTube, so all my kids watch it via CodeHS.
In this video, we're going to talk about something you may have already noticed, and that is that Carol can't turn right. So let's revisit the build a tower problem. So you may have gotten to a point in your program where you got Carol to the top of the tower and you needed Carol to face east, so you might have typed out turn right. And what you probably found is that that doesn't work. Carol can't turn right because Carol doesn't know that command. Carol only knows those original 4 commands. So instead, what can we do? Well, we can turn left 3 times, and that achieves the same result. Carol will go from north to west, south, east, and end up facing east. So pretty much Carol turned right. But wouldn't it be nice if you could just say turn right? Don't you wish you could say turn right? That would make the most sense. We're commanding Carol to turn right, and that's what we really mean. We don't want Carol to turn left 3 times. We want Carol to turn right. So how can we make Carol turn right? Well, introducing functions. Functions are how we teach Carol new words. So what is a function? A function is a way to teach Carol a new word. So we can break away from those original 4, move, turn left, take ball, and put ball, and we can start teaching Carol brand new commands. And you might hear various names for functions. They're sometimes called functions or procedures or tasks or processes, but in this course we'll mostly be calling them functions. So we want to teach Carol how to turn right. We want to teach Carol a new command. So how can we do that? Well, this is how we teach Carol to turn right. We write function, turn right, open parentheses, close parentheses, open curly brace, and then the actual recipe, the instructions for turning right, which is turning left 3 times, and then we close the function with a close curly brace. And that's a lot, so let's break this down. Let's dissect the syntax for a function. So here is the name of the function. Whatever we want Carol to learn, this is what we put as the name, right before the open parentheses, close parentheses. Now everything in between the curly braces is called the function body, and this is the actual instructions for the function. This is the instructions for this command. So this is the function body. To turn right, what do? You turn left 3 times. And that is how we teach Carol to turn right. So let's see some examples of this in action. So here we have a program that has Carol build a tower. So let's see what happens when we run this code. Okay, so Carol makes it to the top of the tower, but Carol is facing north when he should be facing east. So how can we make Carol face east? Well, what we could do is make Carol turn right. But if you tried this, you may have found, so if we click enter, we can actually type out our own command. Let's try typing out turn right. If we do this, reset it and try to run, we get an error. Carol doesn't know how to turn right. Is there another way we can solve this? So turning right's not going to work. So instead what we can do is we can turn left. You see if I type a proper command, it'll actually turn red. If we turn left 3 times, now Carol solves the problem. But we don't really want to turn left 3 times. We want Carol to turn right. So let's teach Carol how to turn right. Instead of doing this, let's delete these and go over to the functions area. We will teach Carol how to turn right using functions. So we go over to this area. There's 2 different blocks. This is for teaching Carol the function, and this is for telling Carol to actually do it. So first, let's teach Carol to turn right. We'll drag this out. We're going to write a function called turn right. And inside the function, we write the function body. We write the actual instructions for how Carol should go about turning right. So to turn right, all you have to do is turn left 3 times. So let's drag this out, turn left, turn left, turn left, and now it's defined. Let's see what happens when we run this. So nothing happens. Carol makes it to the last move and then doesn't actually turn right. That's because we've taught Carol how to turn right, but we haven't actually told Carol to do it yet. So to tell Carol to actually turn right now that it's defined, we drag out this blue block and actually type out turn right. So now get to the end and we tell Carol to turn right. Let's see what happens when we run this. Carol turns left 3 times. Awesome. So if we switch to code view, we can actually see what's going on here. So if we go line by line, let's pause it here. Carol puts down a ball.
All right, so that's it in a nutshell. One thing I do always remind my students of is kind of like the rules for naming functions. Things like can't start with a capital letter, can't start with a number, can't contain a space. So little reminders for them. One of the things I love about the video is the fact that it like shows them like, oh no, but like we did this, but then we forgot to do this. Because 99 times out of 100, the first couple of times my kids are creating functions, I always forget to call the function. They'll define it all day long, but then they forget to tell Carol to actually do the command. Also, one of the things that's really great in the video is they have the ability to take notes as well, which is super nice. If you want, you can also, if you're using the videos via YouTube, you can also embed those into like an ed puzzle if you want to embed questions that your kids have to answer. It also allows you to track and make sure that your kids watch the video because it shuts down the ability to fast forward, which is pretty cool. After they're done watching the video, they take the quick quiz. Like I said, I moved this down to the very bottom for my students. It's the last thing they do on the lesson, just because I want them to get some practice. Then you have a couple of those examples. This is the one you saw in the video. It reminds the students, to call it. One thing I do love about CodeHS, just because I'm a very visual person, I love that everything's color coded. So like the commands are always in red, functions get this kind of purpley color. And then you have control flow. So you get that nice color coding, which is super fun. And so once your kids continue to run through everything, they can see how it works. They can, make it go a little faster or slower. There's also the example. This is great when they get into the actual exercises. It just reminds them what the example looks like, and then they have the assignment. So this is showing the kids what it's supposed to look like. It's got some little built-in support help here for the students. And then on the teacher side, you won't see this unless you're in your teacher one. You can actually look at it and grade it. So if you're running on the free version, you do have to go in per student and grade it. If you do have Pro, Pro will self-grade it for you. You don't even have to worry about it. So it just depends. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to go ahead and try this first one. This is Fireman Carol. Okay, so the goal is that there's a fire. Carol needs to slide down the fireman's pole to find and use the turn right function to help Carol get to the ground. So when you start off, Carol's up here, and you got to get Carol to go down here. So, and of course, when you're done, Carol needs to be facing in the same direction. So running through that with your students. Super fun. You do have the option of, you can give your students blocks, or force them to type everything out. I didn't know that the first time I did CodeHS, and my kids were typing everything out. And then when I figured out how to turn on blocks, they were quite upset with me. I didn't realize, oops. Also, if you have the Pro feature, one of the cool things you can do as well is inside your settings, you can actually turn off the copy and paste feature so that they can't copy and paste anything, which is a cool tool. Any questions so far about the lesson, what it looks like? To move down that quiz, you just have to, in your assignments, you can just click on the little 3 bubbles and you can tell it to move it down. Once you've done Fireman Carol, you can move on to Slide Carol. So Carol's gonna try and build a slide, and then up at the bottom right, more practice using that turn right function that you created. Yeah, you can totally move the lessons around. It's super great. Like if you notice like something's taking too long, like a lesson has one too many exercises and you don't quite have enough time, like maybe you don't have enough time for all 3 of these exercises in 1.5, you can always just remove one. You can move them up and down. You can even swap it to a different lesson if you want. If you have the Pro feature, you can assign specific due dates. You can also block it. So for my students, some of them like to work ahead, but I will block off all the other units so they can't get too far ahead of me. I'm not a big fan of them jumping too far ahead in the course. And in this one, I usually always start with warm-ups for my students. I use the slides. In the past, I've always done the slides and done mini lectures, but this year I'm teaching AP CSP, Advanced Computer Science 1, and AP CSA in the same class period. So I'm going to be leaning on the videos a lot this year for my students, but I'm still going to have them do their class opener via Edpuzzle, just because not Edpuzzle, sorry, Pear Deck, so that it collects the answers for me. So when I do this one with my students, I always ask them, what can Carol the dog teach us about programming? How are dogs similar to computer programs? Which is super interesting. My students are like, they're not. And I was like, oh, actually they are, because, just like a program. You have to train your dog, hopefully. And stuff. And then it's just, giving them the commands. Just because, you tell your dog to sit doesn't necessarily mean they're going to understand it. So language precision is very, very important. Yeah, and the commands only work when programmed. Absolutely. Just like dogs.
We do have a question. Somebody was just asking about due dates. I think they wanted to know from you and what you do. Do you accept late work, not accept late work? How do you do that in your classroom?
Perfect world, I would not accept late work, but it's our district policy. We have to accept late work, as long as it's within the quarter. Because it's an AP class, I'm a little stingy and I only accept late work within a week of the unit test, just because my students, they need deadlines, because then they go to college and then they don't understand why their professor won't let them turn something in at the end of the course. And it's, I don't know, I feel like we set them up for failure if we don't have some strict guidelines. So I'm sure somebody's going to fight me one day on the fact that I only allow them to turn in late work a week after the unit's closed. It's just pointless. And then kids are just redoing stuff to try and save their bacon at the end. And I hate that. It drives me crazy.
Brandy, can you also show in the settings where that is for someone who does have the pro features, where they would go for the due dates and accepting late work?
All right. So inside of settings in your section, it's got your dates and stuff. You can also show blocks. If they're allowed to use blocks in the editor, especially in the beginning, give your kids the blocks. I forget that semicolon all the time. It drives me crazy. So scroll down. Okay. So you can shuffle the quiz questions in the pro feature, add copy and paste prevention. If it is something that they're building on from one lesson to the next, it will automatically import those ones over. So you don't have to worry about, oh my God, I'm going to turn this off, and then they're supposed to copy and paste. Anything that needs to be moved over is in there. Also, they have this collaborate chat feature. So you can have your students try and they can chat with one another inside of CodeHS if you so choose. I don't let them do that just because they text each other all the time. Like if they want to talk to each other while they're coding and collaborate, I want them to do that like actually in person and have chats with each other. So for the due dates, assignments. You can click on the module, select due dates, and then you can assign due dates individually. This is super fun for your students. So like if I wanted all of you guys to have this done by Friday, it'll change it for all of you. You can also make it different for, if you have a student who's out of town or whatever, and you want to extend the due date for them, you can as well. And so it's really nice to have that feature for your students. And then one other pro feature, just because I have pro, I don't know. I don't know any different. Don't think I've ever not had pro, which is fine. You have your grade book as a pro feature. Super cool. One of my favorite things. Once it loads, you do have a key up here. So teal is if it's completed on time. This kind of magenta one is if it was submitted late. Pink is needs to be reviewed. There it goes. Green is submitted. Yellow is not submitted. If it's gray, it means they haven't even opened it, which is great. Super important to see. You can also see their progress. I know I showed this yesterday if you were in my APCSA session. Sorry, living in the sticks. Internet is not the fastest. Okay, you can see how students are progressing through the course, how much time they're taking on things. This is great too, just for making sure that your students are not speeding through things super fast. So to see the blocks that's in your settings, you can give them.
Oh yeah, your internet isn't
My
being a
internet is
friend to you
grumpy today. It's like, no, just kidding. Which is funny because I did a speed test before we did this and it was rocking.
While we're waiting, one person had a question about, and I know you mentioned this yesterday, that you actually turn off your copy and paste for students, and they were wondering if there were any lessons where your students needed to copy code from one to another, or if they had to put image links in, if you have come across that.
No, I've never come across a setting or a situation where if it was something they were building on from one exercise to another, it wasn't automatically just imported in. If that were the case, I would turn off copy and paste for the day and then turn it back on really fast, because you can turn that setting off and on as needed. I don't know why it just does not like this particular.
Yeah, and that copy and paste prevention was if you are in your course and over on the left-hand side under classroom, it says settings. So we just came up with or just rolled out new navigation. And so this left-hand side, if you're familiar with CodeHS at all, looks totally different, but it's going to end up being super helpful once you get used to it. But if you're looking for that copy and paste prevention, you would go to the left-hand side under classroom, and then you would click settings.
That really just does not like that progress page right now. Also, you do, if you ever come across a situation where you don't know how to solve the problem, they do have the solution guide for you, which is super great. Inside of the curriculum on the left-hand side, you do also have textbooks for your students as well. So if they're doing JavaScript, there's a JavaScript one. And then there's a Python one as well. And so it's really nice to have your students, you can assign these for homework, have your students read, the section the night before, whatever it is, you're going to go through it. And that's just, helps them so they come in prepared the next day. Also in the resources tab, they do have like note takers you can do with your students, which is really important. There's a nice notebook template. You can either do this digitally or have your students physically write it down in the notebook. And so it just helps them stay on track. I like making them take notes. I think it's great. Plus, it gives them a break from the computer. If you're doing it by hand, that's never a bad thing. So you do have some alterations you have the option for in the lessons. You can teach through slides, or you can have them watch the video individually, either by themselves in class, or they can do it from home for homework. Or you can, throw the video up for everyone, pause, answer any clarifying questions, have some discussions, things like that. And so for the examples, you can go through the example either as kind of like a self-paced exploration. I have to go through it with my students, just because otherwise they'll skip the examples and then be like, oh, wait, how do I do this again? I was like, well, why don't you go through the examples? Yeah, I definitely like the idea, especially this year. I give them a composition notebook and then they take all their notes inside of the composition notebook. And the one thing I do for them is under the resources, there's like templates you could print out for them and stuff. I'm trying to save paper as much as humanly possible. But there's like vocabulary that I have them write down. So for like each lesson, we go back through and we do the vocabulary just because it is very important for the students to have a handle on the vocabulary. Also having them, this is one thing I will print for my students, and it's just like the commands. And so it gives them a chance to practice writing out the code. I'm confused. Can what be done the first week? I have them set up, like one of the first things we do, we're going to do this year is they're going to set up the pretest. Yeah, I do the pretest right. It's like the very first thing they do, like the second day of school. And stuff. And that's just because I have students that come in with no coding experience, some that took my middle school coding class. And so it just depends. So yeah, I definitely make them take that pretest just because I'm curious. And then I make them take the pretest again at the end of the year to see how much they've learned. And usually they improve so much between the pretest and then I just give it to them again as a post test. I just duplicate it.
And then John, yeah, we're not sure why the pretest is down in module 20. We're gonna have to take a look at that, but it can be moved all the way up to the top. And like Brandy said, you would definitely want to do that at the start. The other thing is it was in Python for some reason that it's module 20. We had to look that up. Somebody else talked about weighted grades and how you would do that. If you could on the left-hand side, click configure for me. Up under assignments. Third one. Yep.
Really thinking. There it goes.
There you go. Nice. You can see there are a bunch of different things here. You can assign things. Again, if you have Pro, assign them, unassign them, do all the due dates here. So again, this was on the left under assignments and she clicked configure. You can also see, so if you would just want to kind of go across the top on these tabs, if you could show them each kind of different thing. And then one of them we get to will be the weighted grades.
So in the grade settings, you can either switch it up if you want it to be teacher graded or auto grading. You can also edit the grade category so you can enable weighting, which is super great. And you can assign some category weights. So depending on how your district likes to do this, mine is a 70-30. So I have it as formative, which are all the cutesy little stuff, gets 30. And then all my summative stuff, you can add a new category. And so like my summative stuff, like my big exams, get to be 70%. So you can totally weight your grades, which just makes it easier. Oh, not 300. Got a little crazy there. Nobody needs 300%. So you can weight it. And then if you click on the particular unit, there we go. You can weight, like you can say everything's going to be formative except for like the end of unit 1 and stuff. And this is like their challenge activities and stuff. I usually make the challenge activities. These are kind of like my projects. I will weight these as a summative. And so you can totally weight your stuff. You can also do the blocks text settings. And so you can allow blocks for all sections. You can also, if there's like particular things where you want them to go between blocks and typing it out, you could switch it up. And so if you wanted to be crafty, you can say, okay, on this one, I'm going to give you blocks, but on the next one, I want you to practice typing it. You can absolutely do that as well. You can totally swap things around for your students. And then you can change your assigned things. So if you don't want them to jump ahead or anything, you can just turn these all off and then go back and do them as needed. Same thing with copy and paste. If you know there's something specific where they will need to be able to copy and paste things or ways you want to access it, you can do the same thing here. You can just drop it down and allow them to copy and paste on certain ones and not the others. You can also change up your quiz settings. You can give them a certain number of attempts for your stuff. When it comes to like lesson quizzes, I don't allow them to retake it just because for me it's formative. And so we'll go back through and we go through the quizzes at the end of class for them. But then when it comes to like the summative, the end of unit quizzes, I don't allow them to retake those. I actually make them go back and I'll actually assign them additional exercises and we'll make them go back through and review their test and explain why they got the question wrong and where they went wrong on it and stuff like that. So they have to do a little reflection on the exam. I don't just let them retake it personally, but that's up to you and what your school and district will allow. For the exercises, you can you pick and choose. You can have your students do them independently. You can do small groups. You can do pair programming where one person's the one actually doing the programming while the other person is telling them what to do and then they switch. CodeHS inside those slides does have discussion questions in the beginning and the end. They do have the short video quizzes. You do have in your assignments, there are handouts for the different lessons, which are in the lesson plans. So the lesson plans are super great. It gives the objective. So if you have a district that requires you to write these down every day, you can just take them directly from the lesson plan. I'm very grateful my district does not enforce that because I teach 8, 9 different classes in a day. I don't have time to write down objectives for everybody. Make sure you're having the students write down the vocabulary. Then you have the handouts for them as well to help supplement. They have like really good planning notes, some learning strategies. Here's where you can find those lesson openers and lesson closers for the questions. It lets you know if there's any prior knowledge you need to cover ahead of time as well. You can see the slides if you're choosing to do the slides versus the video. And then you have discussion questions for the beginning of class versus the end of the class. And then you have the standards so that you can go through all those. And then of course it has the easy navigation where you can switch between lessons. So if you know you're going to have a sub for the day, it's really easy. You can just print the lesson plan for them. And if you have a really great sub, have the sub do it. Otherwise, I mean, I usually just assign the kids a lesson. They do great with the video. I don't even think talk to the sub when the subs come in because they always sign up and my thing says social studies teacher. And then they come in and they're all like, what is this? And so poor subs, they never know what they're getting into in my class. They think they're getting a social studies class. So the Java versus Python.
There's one
it's personal preference. Huh?
I said there's one before that too, but if you want to talk about that one.
Yeah. Okay. So I've always taught JavaScript just because that's what I'm comfortable in is Java. Just because that's what I was first trained on. And this year, however, I'm switching to Python, not because of a personal preference, it has nothing to do with that. I have industry professionals that come in because I'm a career and tech ed teacher. So we have industry professionals that come in and do chats with our kids. And when a lot of our kids go into mining after high school, because I live in a gold mining state, it's like the #1 profession out here and it pays extremely well. And so they come in and talk about what kind of programming languages they use in their industry. It's always Python. And so I've never taught Python and stuff. And so then my kids go out into the workforce and then they all have to like tweak it and start programming in Python for their jobs. And so I'm going to try and make that easier for my kids starting this year. And I'm going to switch to Python just because that's what the industry is using in my region. And most of my kids will go get a 2-year degree. And stuff, they'll get an associate's degree in computer programming, and then they go and get these starting jobs at like $100,000 a year plus, and they'll make more than me, before they hit 21, working in gold mines, which is crazy, but super exciting. Can't complain. What was the other question? I think I missed it.
The other question is from somebody who was actually in your webinar yesterday. How would you keep student engagement and interaction, both student to student and teacher to student, when using the videos instead of the mini lecture class discussion module? So I know you talked about doing mini lessons, and then you said that you were going to have the students, since you were teaching 3 different classes in one class period, they were going to be watching the videos on their own. So I think they were just talking about more engagement and interaction in the class. Is there anything else that you do?
Yeah, so I use this online tool called Edpuzzle. And so I'll just take the videos from CodeHS, and you can just drop the YouTube link into Edpuzzle. And I'll embed some questions in there for my students. And then where it has in the lesson plan, the beginning discussion questions, I'll put those at the end of the video for my kids to answer. And I can pull those up on my iPad or my phone even while I'm walking around, because I can't walk around holding a laptop. I'm not that cool. I'll drop it. And so I'll be looking at their stuff, and then I can check in with students if they've completely gone off the rails or didn't, or put IDK. That's like my favorite one that I get all the time from my students, as an answer to a question, so I can check in with them, especially this year when I'm trying to teach 3 classes at once and I become a master juggler this year. That's my goal. I'm going to juggle all these classes at one time and stuff. Is it possible? Oh, you can look them up on Edpuzzle. Believe it or not, you can actually go into Edpuzzle and search up. No, it's all free. No, Edpuzzle costs nothing. No, there's nowhere to purchase them. No, it's all free. You can literally go into Edpuzzle and you can search literally like the name of the assignment and stuff. So you can type in 1.2 more basic Carol, and it'll show you what other teachers have created, and then you can just copy their stuff. Which is really nice. No, you don't have to purchase them. Teachers spend enough money. We're not purchasing anything on Edpuzzle. It's all free. It's all through Google. So if you use Google Classroom, it's all integrated through your Google Classroom. Same thing with CodeHS. When it comes to your learning management system, if it's Google Classroom or Canvas, your gradebook will port over seamlessly. It's just one less thing you have to worry about as a teacher. I'm so grateful I don't have to do like a paper grade book anymore to make sure I transfer all my grades from one platform to another. It just seamlessly integrates, so you don't even have to worry about that. I love it because I am a Google person. Google and CodeHS, those are like my 2 things I can't survive with at the end of the year.
And just as a reminder, to have your grades seamlessly integrate with your LMS, that usually comes with a pro district license. I had free, so I wasn't able to have that, but so I ended up copying and pasting. I had 2 screens open, and I would just put the points in to Canvas from CodeHS. I mean, it's not horrible, but
Split your desktop.
it's definitely much easier. the other way for sure.
It is. I just got that email today that they had submitted my invoice for my pro account. I was like, oh, thank God. Hopefully it'll be ready to go before I start. One of the things CodeHS has too is the AP CSP hub. So it has all kinds of additional resources for you. So when you're in this cool new navigation toolbar versus, trying to click through everything, you have the AP hub at the bottom of curriculum. And so make sure you're on the AP CSP. It's very different from CSA. You still have that amazing question of the day, which you can assign to your students. This will be available soon, but you can kind of see what some of the other ones they've asked in the past. You can go and see all of last year's questions, which is really good. And it is aligned with where they should be in the course at the time. Has lots of great little sample performance tasks, whether you're using Java or Python. They have it all there for you. Different blog posts, tips and tricks, help you out throughout your year. Some different tools, some anti-cheating resources. If that becomes a problem in your class, which I hope it does not. Hopefully your students all have that academic integrity we want them to have. Definitely make sure you're going through with your students too, and going through the AP review. You can, at the end of section 1, give them some different review tasks, which is super great. You can embed those right away inside of your assignment resources too. You can also embed some of their supplemental material. So if you're in your assignments, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom. And if you click search for content, it automatically pops up with some supplemental materials. So if you're required, I am required to give my kids a midterm. So I'll assign that to them at the end of our semester, which comes at the end of January, which is super weird. You can give them extra practice and puzzles, just extra things to keep them going. You got the pre-test and the post-test here as well. And then you have practice performance tasks for your students. Some of these projects I will assign at the end of the year, just because, from the time the AP test is until my semester ends is about a month. And so I'll tend to give them just some of these little extra ones as well, which just makes it easier. My students don't think, hey, the AP test is done, I can stop learning. It's like, no. I might give them a little bit extra at the end, but that's about it. You do have lots of practice problems you can give them, which is super great. They're set up like unit tests. They can be completed either logged in or logged out. I require my kids to do all of their tests in class because we have a tool that makes it so I can see and record all of their screens at the same time. That's just to help with that academic integrity issue. And so they can either work on their own or you can assign them specific problems. I do this a lot. If they fail the test or they want to get a higher score, I'll make them go in and complete some of their extra review ones. There's also lots of extra review stuff to help prep for the exam. I usually, when I'm doing my pacing, I give my kids about 3 weeks before the AP test to kind of wrap everything up. And then we spend those 3 weeks prior to the exam making sure that they have everything ready, and we're doing lots and lots of review, including now. So they have their create task, and then they also have to do all of the writing on demand. And so we're practicing with those, as well as doing sample tests. I try and give my kids some timed opportunities in order to kind of get practice on how to get those questions done in the 90 minutes, and then how to get those written responses done in the 90 minutes, as well as leaving time to proofread prior to submitting, because proofreading is a struggle. The content on everything is language as agnostic, so it doesn't matter what language you've taught your kids to program in. All of the exam questions are written so that it doesn't matter if you did Python or JavaScript. They'll be able to answer those questions. Lots of external resources are provided through CodeHS. You have the course hub and stuff. You have the AP practice that College Board provides, then AP Daily. And then the exam description and sample scoring. Take the time, go through that rubric with your students too for the create task, because they did switch it up this year for the AP readers. I am an AP reader for CS principals. One person scored the first half of the rubric and another person scored the second half of the rubric. So it was really interesting for us this year. But because of the changes to the create task, the rubric did switch up. So make sure you spend time going through that with them as well. All kinds of message groups, highly recommend joining some of those. There's an AP community, there's an AP CS principals Facebook group for teachers as well. And then there's a CodeHS educators specific Facebook group, which I'm a part of. It's super great just to go through and, talk to other teachers, get some ideas. Yeah, I could talk about the create task. It's so much fun. Insert sarcasm. So the create task, I specifically left a bunch of stuff out about that one. So the create task, the kids have to do, essentially they have to kind of create an app, and then they have to submit a video of that app working. Make sure on the video, oh my God, my kids, they can't have their name in it anywhere. It has to be, completely anonymous. So CodeHS is adding new stuff specifically for the create task. That's some of the new stuff that's coming out on August 2nd. So you have the create task scoring guidelines that you have to go over this with the kids. I spend at least 2 or 3 class periods just going over what's expected of them, showing them, oh yeah, see, it's going through the update. It's like not here anymore. And stuff for the students. And so going through the guidelines, what's expected, breaking down each of the question, we go through samples. They have to, we mock score the samples. Do you think this would earn a point? Do you think not? And then we talk about why it did or why it didn't. And then they have to create their own, which they have to have 12 in-class hours to create their project. And so they have their program code. They can do this either independently or collaboratively, which is great. They can actually do it. They have to have input, and this can either be from the user, a device, an online data stream, or a file. They have to have at least one list or other way to some other type of collection. A procedure that contributes to the overall purpose. So they have to have procedures name, return type, 1 or more parameters. I cannot tell you how many kids miss this point just because one procedure, so they have to have a function that has a parameter. The kids would have a function, no parameter. And so making sure the kids know that it has to have a parameter and it has to have some kind of return type. And then they have to have an algorithm that has sequencing, selection, and iteration all inside of the procedure, inside the function. They obviously have to use that and call that function. They can't just create a function and not use it. And then instructions for the output. And so how does the input go through the procedure? And then how does it contribute to the output of the function as well? Then they have to have that video, has to be done independently. The group can't create one video and then everybody submits the same video. It has to be different. No distinguishing information, no narration. They're not supposed to talk literally. They're just screen recording. And then they have their personalized project reference that has to be done independently. And so this is all submitted prior to the exam date. So they're just doing screen captures of specific program code. And this is really useful for us, the scorers, as well, because it's so we can reference back what they're talking about. I have them record the video in class just because a lot of my kids don't have access to a screen recording. Some kids will record it on their, they're literally just take their phone and record their computer doing stuff. And I don't think that looks as nice. It'll work, but I usually will have them load it up and stuff, and then we'll screen record on mine, and then I'll download it for them and email it to them, just so that way I know the video is done. And so, yeah, the video, it's up to you. If you trust them to create the video at home, have them do it at home. I build in class time for that just because I want to make sure it's done correctly. And then we have a straight day in class where, this is all in the in the assignments. So if you go into the assignments and you click on the create task down at the bottom, and then this will probably move around a little bit once the updates released in August. And so on the create performance task, it's the challenge. And so I just clicked on the problem guide, and this goes through all the things, the general requirements and stuff for your students. Sorry. Yeah, Screen File works. My district blocks that one. They block a lot of stuff. The kids don't have access to like hardly anything. I had to go through a whole thing just to get CodeHS unblocked, which was a nightmare. And took like the first month of school almost. So, yeah, there's lots of great screen recorders out there if your district doesn't block them. I know with like student privacy and stuff, some districts have a little stricter requirements. And then they just have specific guidelines that your students have to adhere to, specific things you have to adhere to. You cannot grade their create task. That is a hard rule. I give my students points as long as they've submitted it as final. So usually not the day it's due. It never fails. College Board, everybody's on College Board trying to submit the create task that last day. And one year it crashed. And my kids couldn't submit it. And so then they had to extend the opening, which was super fun and terrifying at the same time. And so I make my students do it a little in advance. It's usually like the Thursday before it's submitted as final. And we'll go through, I'll show them how to upload everything. I'll literally sit with them like small groups and be like, okay, we're gonna get everything submitted. So I give myself a little extra time just to make sure everybody's submitting everything. And then if they're comfortable, they hit submit as final. And then I can send a screenshot of that to my boss and be like, hey, everybody's good to go. Because now, prior to the exam, your AP coordinator, whoever that is at your school, mine is my principal, they have to print their personal project reference sheets for the students to have during the exam for them to reference it so they can look at it while they're doing their written responses on demand. Before they'd submitted it all together, the written responses at the same time as the create task. But now, because of all the instances of cheating in 2023, they have to do that on demand, which I think contributed to the fact that College Board just released only 65% of kids passed the AP CSP exam this year, which I thought was kind of low. It used to be a lot more. All right. This is what I was hinting at earlier. The newest thing CodeHS has just released, which is AP CSP with roadblocks. Go for it, Robin.
Thank you. So we actually are looking to sponsor 10 teachers who are interested in using the AP CSP Roblox course. The course is approved by College Board, and I am going to pop the link as soon as I find it here into the chat for you if this is something that you might be interested in. Here it is. I'll put that in. There you go. We're super excited about this course. We know it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be engaging. And of course, students will learn so much from it. So if you are interested, click the link I just put in. It says learn more and apply here. Again, that deadline is July 31st, which is coming up. So make sure that you get that filled out. And then if you could go to the next one. And then again, these are just some of the resources. We have the AP CSP Hub, and I did put a link into that in the chat. But of course, if you're in your course and you go to the left-hand side in our navigation, it does say AP Hub. And so our left navigation is where you would go to find everything that you need, and that one's AP Hub. We've got our College Board link. We've got some knowledge-based articles, resources for AP CSP, and I can also pop that in there for you as well. And then there's a question bank. AP CSP Readers question bank that you could take a look at. That would also be helpful for you as well. And then that is all, let's see, slide 42. So I'm going to see if I can copy all of these at one time and paste them in. This should be interesting. Man, impressive. I think it worked. Okay. So if you're interested in any of those things, there's the link for you. And then if you could go to the next slide. And then I did put the links into our CodeHS Facebook educators group. That is a very active group and it's a very helpful group. So it is a bunch of teachers who use CodeHS for various courses, who are just looking for information or tips and tricks or resources that other teachers are willing to share. So if you happen to be on Facebook, that is a great group to join. And then if you could go to the next one. So we would like your feedback on our webinar today. We know it was packed full of information, and we could probably even make this webinar a little bit longer. But if you would please just fill out our webinar survey, let us know what you thought. If there's something you would like to see next time, something you would like to learn more about. I did mention that we do have also our back to school webinars are going to be published soon, and our back to school webinars are going to be starting at the beginning of September. And so we will have webinars, and they are free, just as this one was, that will get you prepared to start your school year. And then if you could go to the next slide. So I'm going to put this link in again for anybody who maybe got here late, or maybe you couldn't get signed into CodeHS. This is the certificate of completion link. This is the one that's going to say that you attended today, and it will send you a certificate in your email. Make sure you're logged into CodeHS before you click that link. And again, it's not going to be anything fancy. It'll just say, thank you for attending, but you will get your email. And then if you go to the next slide, these are some of the webinars that we still have coming up for you. So if you would like to attend any of these webinars, I did put the link in the chat. You can see we've got cybersecurity coming up next week. It's a busy week. Getting started teaching CS in middle school. And then there's a course launch. So a half-hour course launch for our new game development in Unity. So that course has been completely updated. And so we are relaunching that course. So if you're interested in bringing game development and design to your school, that would be a good one to attend. We've got a cool AI one on how to collaborate with AI on August 1st. And then we have a teacher trainer on the 6th who is going to be going over teaching game development in Unity. And she has been teaching game development for quite a few years, and she is going to give some insight on how to do that. And she's going to also be talking about how she uses our course and the updates in that course. So that will be a really good one to attend as well. This slide, I'll put yet another link in the chat for you. And this link would be for people who are maybe interested in getting some of those cool features that Brandy was showing when we were saying that you can do this with Pro and you can do that with Pro. If you would like to learn more about Pro, how to bring it to your district, to your school, the pricing and all of that, you can get some information by filling out that quick form at codehs.com/learn more, and you can get information on our Pro license and our Pro features. Woo, and that is it. We're going to stick around here for a couple of minutes. We actually finished up a few minutes early, so I guess you guys get some time back in your day, right? But if you have any questions, feel free to pop those into the chat, and we will make sure to get those answered. So about 2 minutes, and then we'll let you guys go. If you're done, you can get out of here, but if you have questions, we'll hang around for a couple minutes. Thank you so much. We appreciate you attending and hope to see you at another one of our webinars.